In order to determine whether or not two vectors are equal, we can look at them in position vector form. So let's consider vectors v and vector w. Vector v is equal to vector w if and only if the horizontal components are equal to each other and the vertical components are equal to each other, right? These two vectors are going to be the same if they travel the same distance horizontally and the same distance vertically. Now, we also have two different ways to algebraically represent a vector. And what we mean by algebraically is, so if this is the graphical representation of a vector, we graph it. But if I want to write it down and manipulate it or add or subtract algebraically, then we would want to write our vector either as a position vector, and the position vector notation is this pointy bracket notation. When we have this pointy bracket notation, we're referring to a vector centered at the origin that has a terminal point at the ordered pair that is at the same, that has the same components as the vector itself, right? Pointy bracket is talking about the vector itself. Soft bracket is representing the ordered pair at which it terminates when the initial point is at the origin. Now, we also can refer to this same vector algebraically by using those components, and the components again are the horizontal component and the vertical component, the distance traveled in the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. We can use these components as scalar multiples of the I vector and the j vector, which we're about to define. But just to kind of go ahead and say that we call this a vector written in component form when we say we are looking at A, which again, this is the horizontal direction, times the vector I, which we're about to define, plus B, which is the distance that we travel in the vertical direction, times the vector j. And I like writing them with vector hats over the top, but again, these vectors could be written in boldface lettering, and that would still represent vectors. So let's talk about what the heck are these ij vectors. So vector I is representing a unit vector, so its magnitude is going to be 1. So it's 1 unit long, and its direction is specifically in the same direction as the positive x-axis. So this is the vector that we call vector I. It is a unit vector of magnitude 1 in the direction of positive x. Now, as we've noted before, the vectors can be moved around the Cartesian plane, so we would say this vector is also vector I. It's still in the horizontal direction pointing to the right. It still has magnitude 1, but now it's just situated up here. We use the algebraic representation for our I vector to be 1 unit horizontally and 0 units up vertically to get from the initial point to the terminal point. We only travel 1 unit horizontally and no units vertically. So the components are 1, 0, which also match the ordered pair that my I vector would land at if its initial value was at the origin. So the components of the vector match what the ordered pair terminal point would be when the initial point starts at the origin. Let's take a look at vector j. Vector j is also a unit vector, which means that its magnitude is also going to be 1. But vector j is a unit vector that's going to be pointing straight up. So if we start vector j at the origin, its terminal point would be the ordered pair 0, 1. Because it has a magnitude of 1, the length of this vector is equal to 1. Notice that the position vector representation for vector j is going to be to get from the initial point to the terminal point, we don't travel anything in horizontally. There is no change in x to get from the initial point to the terminal point. So no distance horizontally, And then the vertical distance that we travel is +1. So those are the components of my vector. How far did I travel in the direction of x? 0. How far did I travel in the direction of y? 1. But notice we could have a vector j that's situated out here. Now, this is still the j vector. Remember, we can move vectors around, but this vector j's terminal point is not going to be 0, 1 because it doesn't start at the origin. But we would still say this vector j is does have a position vector of 0, 1, simply because if it did start at the origin, that would be the terminal point. Even we could think about it like this as well. No matter where we start, the j vector is going to be representing the change in x and the change in y to get from the initial to the terminal. So even starting up here, I have no change in x, and the change in y is equal to 1. So I still have the same position vector notation for my j vector, even when it's floating in a different location. And so in summary, if I have a vector, let's say vector v has the components of a, b. And let's say that so a is my horizontal component. It represents the change in the x from the initial point to the terminal point. And we'll say that my vector ab maybe terminates somewhere way out here, okay? So here is our vector v that has the components a and b. So my a is representing how far I have to travel in the direction of x, or we'll call that my change in x, right? My b is representing how far I'm traveling in the direction of y. We could also call that the change in y. But to keep it closer to our component form or position vector form, let's say that this is side a and this is side b. Now, we've discussed how we can add two vectors together to get a resultant vector using the triangle method. So let's think about the length of this horizontal side of my triangle as being not just a scalar quantity a, but actually as being a vector. And this vector, because it's in the same direction as my I vector, which my I vector, of course, remember, is this unit vector that has magnitude 1 ending at 1, 0 because the initial point is at the origin. Well, if I then want a vector that is as long as the side of this triangle here, then I'm going to multiply my I vector by that value a in order to stretch the I vector out to being as long as I want it to be. Now, we'll do the same thing for the vertical side. So I've got the vertical side of my triangle, and I'm actually going to turn that into a vector, and this as a vector is going to be b times my vector j, because vector j is the unit vector that is pointing straight up. If I were to multiply that by b, it essentially just stretches that unit vector out to having a magnitude that is now b units long. So now we've changed this from being just a standard triangle now to being the sum of two vectors that are being added together using the triangle method. Now let's consider, if we look at a times vector I and we want to add that to b times vector j, then we've got it situated where the initial point of a times I is at the origin, ending at this point here, but the initial point of b times j is at the terminal point of a times I. And when we add vectors together with this arrangement, that means that we need to use the triangle method. And when we use the triangle method, our resultant is going to start at the initial point of AI and move to finish or terminate at the terminal point of bj. And so our vector in question here that had the position vector notation of crooked bracket or pointy bracket a comma b, we could also write that vector as the result of adding ai plus b j, right? And this is what we call component form of a vector. So we can represent it algebraically in component form by simply taking the components from the position vector form and using those components as scalar multiples of I and j, and then adding those two vectors together so that the v vector in question is the result or the resultant of that sum. So let's look at a quick example. We are given the vector negative 3i plus 4j, and essentially that is in component form. We could write this as a position vector in position vector form by using pointy bracket, negative 3, comma 4. Both of these are essentially the same vector represented in two different forms, position vector form or component form. So either way though, if we had it as a position vector or in component form, we can start this vector wherever we want. And since I have that choice, I choose to start it at the origin. I like starting it at the origin because that means my terminal point is going to match the components of the vector itself. So wherever I start, I'm going to move negative 3 horizontally and positive 4 vertically. And again, when I've started it at the origin, that means that the terminal point is going to be the ordered pair. Now I've got an ordered pair with soft brackets here that matches the components of the vector. So here is our vector v, which is negative 3 comma 4 with pointy brackets, or we could also say negative 3i plus 4j. And honestly, I'm a bigger fan of this notation just because it feels less cluttered to me. But the ij notation is also perfectly fine, and that's what we're demonstrating in this example. So we're going to stick with the ij notation. Now, check this out. It says the next part of the question is to find the vector's magnitude, and look how many different ways we can talk about the magnitude of the vector. Remember, some textbooks are going to use the arrow notation on top of the vector itself to talk about vectors, and some textbooks are going to use bold face lowercase letters to talk about vectors. Some textbooks are going to use double bars to talk about magnitude. Some use just a single bar. And so we could say double bars with arrows, single bars with arrow vectors, double bars with boldface letter, single bar with boldface letter. Either way, any of those four ways, that's talking about the magnitude of the vector. My personal favorite is this one because it's clean with only one set of vertical bars, and I've got the arrow indicator, which is not very easy to confuse, right? A bold-faced letter is like, is that bold or is that not bold? I can't quite tell, but with an arrow there, we can tell for sure. So if we're looking for the magnitude of vector v, well, that's going to be the length of the hypotenuse side of this triangle, and this triangle has 3 units here and 4 units here, so this is going to be a 3, 4, 5 triangle. We've seen this calculation in lots of different topics: the magnitude of a complex number, the distance that a point is along the terminal side of an angle. Whatever the topic, we're finding the magnitude by looking at the components squared and added together. So essentially, the ordered pair at which we terminate, or the components of the vectors themselves, we can square those and add them together. It's basically the Pythagorean theorem in order to come up with the magnitude of this vector. So this is going to be 9 plus 16, which is 25, and the magnitude of this vector is the 5 value that we were expecting. Remember, the magnitude of a vector is always going to be a positive quantity because it is representing the length of that vector.